Hello and a very warm welcome to this Deutsche Welle web talk that you can follow on YouTube. We're in Bonn, in the headquarters of Deutsche Welle, Germany's international broadcaster, and today we want to talk about the Eurozone debt crisis and its impact on the young generation in Europe with unemployed. We've invited some very interesting guests here, and I would just like to bring them in straight away. We have Nadia from Greece. So Nadia, could you just tell us quickly, where are we catching you today?
Hello, I'm Nadia and I'm from Greece, as you told me. I have to mention that my sound is not very good, so maybe I will have to ask again for something to be said again, okay?
Okay.
So I will have to ask for the last question again, please.
I just wanted to hear from you, where are we catching you? Where are you joining us now from?
I'm joining you from my house.
Which is where?
Okay. It is in Thessaloniki, Greece. It's in northern Greece.
All right. Thank you very much, Nadia, for being here with us. That's a great pleasure for us. And the same goes for Miguel, who we're catching, I believe, in Brussels. But you are from Spain, Miguel.
Yes, I just arrived today to Brussels a couple of hours ago from my holidays.
Okay, well, welcome back. We'll be hoping to talk to you about how the Eurozone debt crisis has affected you, and we would like you who are watching us now here on this web talk to join in the discussion. And you can do that by sending us comments on Twitter, on Facebook, or on Google+. Use the hashtag, that's the hashtag BWWebTalk. So if you have made any experience with the Eurozone debt crisis, if you think you believe in the European idea, or you think it's all going to hell, especially for the young generation, do comment and do send us your posts. And we'll have our social media editors here from Deutsche Welle, Bonn, from the headquarters of following what's going on online. And can I just introduce you to Ponda and Julia, who are already here on the line with us.
Hello.
These two people are the people to go to online, of course, and then we have Bernd Riegert, who's an experienced Europe correspondent for Deutsche Welle. Explain to us what your role is going to be in this website.
Well, thanks for having me. I guess you asked me what I'm doing here because I'm losing the audio, quite frankly. I can't hear you. I'm a Brussels correspondent, and I will try to give some input from the European perspective to this web talk.
That's great. And can I just say again, the hashtag is hashtag DWWebTalk. So please feel free to post all your comments, your personal experience, or what you would want European leaders to change if you were in a position to change anything to get us out of this crisis. So please do join in, and I'm looking forward to an interesting debate. Can I start by asking Nadia, what is your personal story? How has the Eurozone debt crisis affected you personally?
The first and the most serious effect is that for almost 3 to 4 years now, I don't have a regular job. Officially, I'm unemployed. Apart from that, I see life around me changing. Like I see the city that I live changing every day towards the bad things, like stores closing every day. Many friends of mine lose their jobs, they get fired every day. So I have to admit that things are not very good in Greece nowadays.
We'll definitely come back to that, especially when you're saying that lots of people are losing their jobs. So we want to talk about what's keeping people in your country as well. But let us first hear the story from Miguel. Miguel, what's your story? You're in Brussels now. Miguel, did you hear me? I believe Miguel is trying to answer, but we can't hear him now.
I am here.
Yeah, now you're here.
Okay.
So how has the Eurozone debt crisis affected you, Miguel?
Well, I'm now in Brussels because I work here as a volunteer for an NGO. I was before a researcher, but the grant for my research finished, and I could not continue then studying and doing research. So I found this new opportunity to contribute to Europe in a different way.
That's great. So we have two examples. Of course, there's plenty others. We've prepared just a short overview, and maybe we can take a look at some of the very scary figures, because of course the Eurozone debt crisis is one that doesn't only have to do with national debts of countries, it affects people directly. So if we can just take a look at the figures that we've prepared, where we see that the situation was very bad in Greece, where you're from, Nadia, but it's also with more than 50% of people unemployed in Spain after the age of 25, that is. And let us bear in mind, of course, these figures can change and they fluctuate, and there are different ways of actually counting unemployed people, different criteria, but there is a strong tendency that we can see here, and it is depressing. And we want to ask, who's to blame? Nadia, what do you think?
Who's to blame?
Yes.
Okay, this is a big question. Who's to blame? Okay. I think that, I don't know how this will sound, I think that they are the politicians to blame. Because I think that every one of us left to their hands our decisions. So they took the wrong decisions and now we suffer. That's simple.
Do you agree, Miguel, or do you have a different explanation of who's to blame?
Well, one thing is the origin of the crisis, and I think I agree with Nadia that there it is a lot for the politicians to be blamed, because at least in my country they knew that there was all this big bubble, financial bubble, with all the low interest and a lot of the money being put in the building things, and then everybody knew it was going to explode, and nothing was prepared for the moment it was going to disappear. So then the crisis exploded, and there was no plan for exiting of the crisis.
You were talking about, of course, the burst of the real estate bubble, which is explained by some people as greedy banks offering low interest rates to customers, and eventually the bubble burst. Of course, it's a very intricate system with lots of links, and there is maybe it's not that easy to answer the question of who's to blame. Maybe we can get Bernd Riegert in on this. And Bernd, what are some of the other factors that have contributed to the fact that the situation is as bad as it is now? Because we are almost talking about lost generation here, aren't we?
It's not simple to say who's to blame for the crisis, because we have a mix of different crises. First, we had in Spain, for example, we had the real estate bubble, which ended up in a banking crisis, which led then to a financial crisis for the state budget. In Greece, it's a different story. It's mainly a budget crisis of the state first, and then it evolved into a banking crisis. So many factors play a role, and everything is interlinked. So it's not very easy to say it's only the politicians who failed. In Greece and Spain, it might also be the politicians who made wrong decisions. But if in Greece, for example, the country and the state for a long period spent more money than they actually earned, and this is the whole bottom of the crisis. And now it's very painful and hard to restructure Greece again, and to come out of this debt crisis. And unfortunately, Nadia is one of the people who's suffering from this, because she doesn't have a job. And well, who's to blame for that? That's very difficult to say. The European Union as such is surely not to blame, because in economic circles, in the economic field, the European Union is not the one that decides. It's not competent for that. It's all the burden is on the national governments, and the governments always insisted to have the say in economic policy, so we don't have a real economic union. The union as such can only give some hints and some advice, but the blame for economic decisions is surely in the national states.
But what is clear is that everybody is looking for a scapegoat. You have been trying to explain to us some of the factors, and as we've just heard, it is a very complicated mixture. And we are seeing a tendency where increasingly the European Union is divided into the north and the south, whether the people like it or not. We've asked young people in Portugal about their image of Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, and here is their response.
Não gosto dela. Não gosto dela.
Não é a minha favorita.
Acho que ela só está a tentar resolver as coisas, os problemas. Pelo que eu sei, não há muita gente que gosta dela. Mas sinceramente não sei o que é que ela fez.
Esta senhora é que eu vou sair de Portugal para a semana, porque como muitos jovens licenciados como eu estamos sem trabalho, é por causa desta senhora.
O que é que eu iria dizer para a Merkel? Dizia para ela não se meter no nosso país, digamos assim, para ficar no dela. Adeus. Vai-te embora.
So that's, of course, an impression from several people from, maybe it's not representative, but we've seen similar reactions to Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, also in countries like Greece. And Nadia, I would just like to talk to us about your feeling. Why is so much of the anger about the current crisis directed at Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, Germany being one of the 28 member states of the European Union?
I think this is a shallow approach, okay? Because it's not as in general, I mean, okay? Because I don't think it's that simple to blame a person, a politician, or just a country. For me, it's deeper than that. I think it's the system that improves all this crisis. So, for me, politicians, they don't really take decisions on themselves, because I think that others influence them. For me, it's the bankers. Okay, it's that simple. So, I will not blame one politician or a political system. I will blame the ones that make decisions for them, and this is my opinion.
This is your opinion, and it is different from many angry protesters, well, fortunately, who have compared Angela Merkel to Adolf Hitler, who said that the austerity path that she has embarked on is too strict.
You know, people every day get brainwashed. Like, I was making a trip. Of course, in Greece we were brainwashed every day, because it's in the news and the broadcast. It's only fear, fear, fear. It's no hope, no nothing. The other thing is that last year I was making a trip from Denmark, crossing the whole country, the whole Germany, to Italy, and then coming back to Greece on by car. Okay. So I don't speak German, so I cannot understand what the radio broadcast is about, but the first 2-3 words of every news broadcast was Griechenland crisis, Griechenland crisis, Griechenland crisis. It was all over. But I don't think that they were telling the truth, because it was not, back then it was not that serious here. So I think that people get influenced in the way that others want. They want us to fear. They don't want us to have solutions. They don't want us to hope. So we can be frightened and just obey.
we're touching on something very interesting, very important here.
Exactly, exactly.
The responsibility that media outlets have,
Mhm.
and there is talk of the lack of some kind of a European public debate. If I could just get Bernd Riegert to comment on that, is that something that is still lacking, that we're still thinking in national terms, and that it's just easier to communicate in one language, whereas we should discuss all of us together as Europeans?
Well, especially in the Euro crisis, every statesman who is in Brussels and comes back from the summit communicates something different to his own audience. He's catering to his own electorate and his own audience. So there's no, let me say, fair summary of the bailout policy coming from Brussels and from the Eurozone. Everybody has its interests, and that's of course what Nadia experienced. In Germany, we have another perspective on the Euro crisis than people have in Greece or in Spain or even in Finland or in other Euro countries, and that's due to the fact that we don't have a European public, we don't have European media, we don't speak the same language. So it's very easy, you know, to convey your own message you want to convey, and there's no checks and balances on the media side.
And we've talked a lot about the defaults, the faults of the European Union. Now we've talked about all the negative sides. Miguel, you, I believe, have joined an organization that is trying to bring back hope, the lack of hope that Bernd Riegert was mentioning. Despite that lack of hope, can you tell us a bit about your projects and how you try and maybe build some kind of a young European identity as well?
Yeah, well, my organization is called Europe, and we have 200 local groups. So what we try to do is to bring Europeans together from different parts of Europe and to do different projects. And I can say that if you put the Europeans together and they can interact, all the prejudices, all the things that Nadia was saying, that in every national media, prejudices are created because it's much easier to blame outside and to accept the fails and the problems that you have created on your own. Then when you put them together, then they disappear, all these prejudices, and then it's much easier to build things together.
And can I bring in Chiponda and Julia? Have we had any comments so far? What do our viewers out there who are watching this web talk from Deutsche Welle, what have they contributed? How do they see Europe and the Eurozone crisis?
Well, actually, we have a comment from Paula Gill, and she's actually someone we had invited to take part in this hangout. But unfortunately, for technical reasons, she couldn't take part, and she's also tweeting along with other users, and this is something that we've also realized other people are saying. So we're going to read a couple of tweets from her just to have her opinion on what's going on. She says here, the function of a government is to safeguard the population in a crisis, and we're supporting the markets. So she feels that governments in the EU rather are actually supporting the markets and not helping their populations. So, and then she also adds in another tweet saying, I think now we may say the politicians have failed. They haven't fulfilled their function safeguarding their populations. So I think this is something would throw out back at the participants in this discussion. Is this something that you would agree with or disagree with?
I absolutely agree with the opinion. It's very frustrating to see how politicians, which are supposed to defend and to do the task of ruling the country on behalf of the people, are focusing on other priorities.
So what has to change? How can you change it? What has to change? Nadia, were you about to say something?
I think that the change that should be done is fundamental. In a way, we have left our lives, our decisions to the hands of others, which is wrong because corruption is always beside us, okay? And if you not control the ones that make your decisions, then they will be corrupt. It's that easy. And now corruption is everywhere. So we should do steps backwards to check again what's happening. For me, the solution is self-management of our lives, of our jobs, of our everyday living, and I'm working towards that path. for 2 years now.
Exactly. You are working towards it. Can you explain to us how you are managing? Because in Greece, as you said, many shops have closed. Lots of people have lost their jobs, but you are still managing okay. What are you doing?
The main things that I do are four. Okay. So first of all, I am a participant at a food store that is run cooperatively, and it is self-managed. It is called SPAME, and it is the initials of the words cooperative bypass of middlemen. It means that we take food products directly from the producers to the consumers. We work there not almost voluntarily, but we are not paid in money, in euro. We are paid in products that the producer give as an extra amount for us to get paid. So now we're 21 people, the cooperates that run this food store, and it goes very well. We are very satisfied about that, and people join us, and people support us, and people quite enjoy having their food from our store. Second of all, I'm taking part in a local currency here. It's called an alternative one instead of euro, and it's called kino, which are the initials of social currency. Okay, it's kino, and we make exchange in this unit. Like if I sell something, I get paid in kino. And I can buy things with kino. It's like I have a web wallet, an account that all my units are inside, and I can buy something or just sell something. And once a month, it's on not only in the website, in posts. Once a month, there is an open market when every member of kino can go there at the open market and sell and buy products. And this is self-managed too, because there's a team that coordinates that monetary system, and I'm a participant of that moderating team. Apart from that, I'm moderating a website. It's from an international organization. It's freecycle.org, sorry, and I'm moderating a Thessaloniki Free Cycle group. Freecycle is a website, the name is from Free and Recycle. So through this website, you can give away for free the things that you no longer need from your belongings, like from electrical devices to clothes to everything. And you can receive others that other people doesn't want anymore, just for free again. Or you can even ask for something that you're missing. Okay? And I do this for Thessaloniki, me and two other guys. Last but not least, I'm a participant of a group in Thessaloniki which run with self-management again, a 3-story building, neoclassical building in the city center, that with many actions inside. The actions that I take part in is once a week we give lessons how to make soap, handmade soap from olive oil and other ingredients, of course. And apart from that, I coordinate again. We call it Free Giving Bazaar. It's a room where it's open every day. You can go there and you can leave things of your belongings that you no longer need, and you can take everything that you like. So this is the things that I do, and they help me a lot because I am in lack of euro coins, but I can fulfill my needs in other ways, in goods.
Well, of course, you can do that, but of course it is limited to where you are and where you live in Greece, right? I mean, you chose to stay in Greece, didn't you? Do you have anybody, Nadia, who left Greece because they said, listen, I just want to...
Many of my friends, but this is disappointing for me.
So
because you cannot manage living today, this difficult situation, without changing your point of view. If your point of view is the same as that one that brought the crisis here, you cannot survive, okay? But then the only thing that you can do is to leave. But for me, this is not the solution. We have to stay here and be in this battle and win.
Miguel, you seem to take on a similar perspective. Like Nadia, you want to be part of the battle and win. What are some of the problems that the people you talk to for IAG? What are the biggest problems that young people are facing, and how many of them are prepared to leave their home countries?
Well, first, if I can react to what Nadia said, I agree that there is a problem, but I don't agree with the solution that she's saying. I resist to believe that all politicians are corrupt, and I think we have had very bad chosen a long time where we didn't control, and then of course politicians became, some of them greedy, and they didn't fulfill their task properly. But I still think that we still have to believe in democracy, and we still have to believe in making the right decisions in the politicians we need, because all the solutions that Nadia proposed, I know them very well because they are also part of the ideas that came out from the 15M and the Indignados movement in Spain, and they work very well on a very limited area, but it's not a solution for all Europe. And then I believe then that what we need is to have more prepared and more young people maybe in politics, and then maybe people who are more prepared and people who are not inside this system of big corporations and big politics, but also people who are close to the street, who take the leading position in politics. And then I think we can solve the problem systemically, because the solutions on a small scale, they are temporary. They can, of course, help a lot of people to continue living, but they are not going to solve the problem on the long term.
That is a very interesting debate. What do you do? Do you actually stay in the system and try and get by every day, or do you try and get into the system and join the ranks of politicians? It may be the longer battle to fight. I would be interested in hearing from you out there who are following this web talk. What do you think about it? What would you do? Or maybe you live in a country where there is similar or a second currency apart from the euro, or so tell us about your experience against that. Again, the hashtag is EW Web Talk. And Tiponda, Julia, have you had any more comments?
Yes, of course we have. I mean, we're getting comments all the time, and right now some people are commenting on the efforts of the EU to help young people with finding work within the EU. And here we have one person who says, Christina Weinreich, she says, she asked whether you personally think that the EU makes it easy to move to a different country for work. And another user on Facebook says, why is the EU not doing more against youth unemployment? We are the future, at least that's what we are told all the time. Future without job and perspectives, he asks. So just to put these questions back, are people who are discussing this today with us, do you feel that the EU is doing enough to help young people?
Can we just ask Bernd Riegert, because the European Union does have a bad image at the moment, but isn't the EU actually doing something to fight youth unemployment, Bernd?
Well, the European Union is doing, let me say, a little. It's the last summit pledged 6 billion euros to invest into the fight against youth unemployment. But 6 billion euros is, of course, only a drop in the ocean if you see the whole problem. And the EU is also trying to funnel some of its normal funds into the fight against unemployment. But many experts say here it's not about throwing money around. It's about reforms in the countries, and you have to initiate or to bring these people to reform their own countries, and then the economy will pick up again, and the recession will go away. And of course, there's not, and you have to say that there's not the political will amongst the leaders in the European Union to take a lot of money into their hands and throw that at Greece and Spain and Italy and all the countries where the unemployment is very high. They say they have to do it by themselves. We give a little more. We add like 6 billion euros, which is 1,000 euros per head if you break that down to the actual numbers. That's not very much, Europe could do more. I agree with that. But the question is, what's the right thing to do? Is it giving money to these initiatives, or is it just, to bail out the banks and hope that somehow the economy will pick up again?
So, Miguel, can we pass that question on to you? What should the EU do? Would investing more money into projects, maybe like yours or like other projects, would that help, or do we have to take a more comprehensive approach? What do you think?
Well, this youth guarantee scheme that Bernd was talking about, with these 6 billion euros, it's not enough, but it's already a good step, and it was the result of a strong lobby from all the youth organizations through the European Youth Forum. And it's a first step, especially because now we need urgent measures to avoid this lost generation, but it will also be needing a complementary thing for long term. And this is passing, of course, through some reforms, through including different youth priorities in the politics, because we have been neglected. We are always talk about European youth as the future, but we are not the future. We are already here. We have needs now. And the thing is, now that we see all the problems, yes, we are a little bit stressed that the young people are getting lost, but this is the result of not paying attention to what young people has been claiming for a long time. So then now the moment is, of course, to put money in the right place and to do it with the control systems that are needed. It's not to put money without thinking, because in this case we may even have more problems than solutions. But the idea is we will have to find a way on one side to keep protecting the people now that are in problems with unemployment, because we cannot let so many young people be in employment at the same time in Europe. But at the other time, we have to find a way for young people to create their own possibilities, to create their own jobs, support entrepreneurship, support more research in Europe, to have an economy that is based in some sustainable things. Because at least in Spain, when it was based in real estate and building, it was, of course, as long as it lasted, it was very good. Everybody got a job easily. People left the studies because they could find jobs easily. But we have seen how it has ended now, and I don't think it was the right decision to let it grow, this real estate bubble, so big.
And Nadia, if we could hear your opinion on this topic, do you think giving more money from the EU would help, especially the young people in Greece?
No. For 3 years now, I've been sick and tired to trying to find a job. There was nowhere there were jobs. Okay, so I decided to take my life in my hands. So I really created my job myself, without, of course not by myself, with 20 other people. But okay, we didn't take any money from nowhere. We did it ourselves, and it is possible to be done. If you work as a team, then everything can be solved. Okay, about the money that they are given now. The money that they're giving now as a help from the European Union, they just go for the payment of the debts of everyone around, because everyone is in loans and in mortgages. So it's not something that helps. It covers contemporary needs. Needs of now. Okay, you just go, you take some money in your hands and you go to the bank and give them. So there's no growth around. Nothing. Why should I have more money? You know that the friends of mine that now are abroad, it's because they had to give money back. I don't owe money to anyone because I was clever enough not to have credit cards. But for several years here in Greece, they would call you from any bank every couple of days to tell you that you can actually have a credit card for free. You earned it. Like it's a gift, it's a lottery, I don't know. Everyone was having credit cards and spending money that didn't have. But this was a plan. It was not that I would go to a bank and have 5 credit cards. Now everyone owns money. This is a way to control people, okay? So we can work by ourselves. We don't need any more money, because money is control, okay?
Of course. Still, you can still write comments and posts using the hashtag DWWebTalk if you have an opinion on this topic, if you've made your own experience. similar ones, maybe like Nadia. Maybe you have a completely different view. We would be interested to hear from you. And I would just like to put the next question to Bernd Riegert. Bernd, is this crisis maybe a wake-up call? Is this really something that makes people rethink the way we've done business? People taking out too many loans or having too many credit cards, as Nadia was saying, but politicians as well, living sort of a life that they couldn't afford with their state budgets.
It is a wake-up call, especially also to, believe it or not, also to the finance ministers, which meet regularly in Brussels every 4 weeks, because they see how dependent they are on the financial markets, on the private banking system. There's a huge interdependency between state debt and banks, and the banks are so big that they have to be rescued, because if they are not rescued, then the whole system would break down, and all the states in the Eurozone would go bankrupt, including Germany, because the debts we are now bailing out are very held by German, French, British banks. And if the money wouldn't come from Greece and Spain, these banks would go bankrupt, and then we would have the crisis in Germany. So it's not rescuing. It's not about rescuing Spaniards or Greeks or normal people. It's about rescuing banks. That we have to underline, and therefore Nadia is totally right. The normal people in Greece, they don't get the money in their hands. It's all about, bailing out the state and therefore bailing out the banks. And I would say now the thinking in Brussels is changing. The finance ministers are trying to build a new financial and economic union, which is not so dependent on the private banking sector, and they try to regulate banks more than they did in the past. Where now trying to get a banking union with stricter controls. It's a long way. It's a European way with many, many steps, and it will take at least 2 more years until we reach this goal in Brussels. And there's another very interesting point I would like to touch upon. Nadia mentioned she actually and her friends in Thessaloniki, they kind of left the Eurozone because they invented a second currency, and that's also an option people are still thinking about. What if we leave the Eurozone and all the restrictions a common currency brings? So if Greece were not in the Eurozone or Spain were not in the Eurozone, the central bank of Greece or Spain were free to print money and to resolve the crisis with other matters. So it's also a thing we should also think about. Is the Eurozone as such a good thing?
And I've just seen that Chiponda, I believe, and Julia, you have a comment from our Twitter users.
Yes, we do. And I mean, our Twitter users are also commenting on other aspects of being unemployed or being a young person looking for work right now. And one of those aspects, of course, many of us being young ourselves have experienced this, is of looking for a job and being an unpaid intern. So we have a user. Her name is Oharuti, and she says young Europeans are sick of being overqualified and underpaid in most of the jobs that they have to do. And then she also adds in another tweet, what can young Europeans do to secure their economic future? Few permanent jobs are offered. We are the internship generation, she says. So I think that's maybe what they would want us to discuss. What should young people do to get jobs that are actually paying them enough to live on?
I would like to go back to Bernd Riegert and ask him, do you believe that the mood in Brussels and in the European Union as such might change after the German elections? Because of course Germany does have a very strong role in the European Union, so it's not only a wake-up call. Should Angela Merkel lose the elections, would something change maybe in the European Union with the Social Democrats, or is that something that is an illusion, and would Germany keep the same role that it has now and take austerity?
Quite frankly, nobody in Brussels expects that Mrs. Merkel will lose the general election. Maybe she will have to go into a grand coalition with the Socialist Party, but everybody here thinks she will remain the German Chancellor, the head of the government. And Germany, as you mentioned, is the biggest and right now the economic successfulest member of the Union. So you will need Germany, to do whatever you want to do. But the mood is a little changing because many people say, well, austerity, as Germany proposed it, not only Germany but also Finland and Netherlands and Austria, is not enough. We have to do something else. We have to come up with new, fresh ideas, to put maybe a little money into Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, to unite some new ideas and like the Marshall Plan after World War II or something like that. These thoughts are getting more ground here in Brussels, also promoted by the socialists, by the French socialist president François Hollande, who promised to his electorate that he would do this. And maybe after the elections in Germany, there's a new, a kind of spirit to do something. And then Mrs. Merkel maybe open her coffers and spend some more money on the bailout things and these plans and fight against unemployment.
What about you, Miguel? Do you have any expectations at all when it comes to the German elections that are coming up on the 26th of September?
Yeah, here in Brussels, I feel we are all waiting for the results of these elections. It's making everything a little bit slow. This rentrée is not going to really be effective until we see the results, and everybody's expecting to see what will happen. As Bernd said, probably Angela Merkel will win again the elections. The question is how will be this victory. But the problem that I see for me, and I've talked with some friends also, is why only one country has so much power. Why is it so important, the elections in Germany? Why the European Parliament has not much power than one of the countries? This is for me one of the big questions that we have to answer. Where do we want the decisions in Europe to be taken? In the Parliament, where the people are elected for that exact decision, or in the government of one of the countries that, of course, you have to understand in which key they have to make the politics. They have to answer to their own electorate. They have to take decisions according to the Germany priorities. So that's a little bit tricky. Why? And maybe it's one of the reasons why we see the reactions that we have seen, for instance, on the people in Portugal against the figure of Angela Merkel.
And Nadia, what about you? Do you think anything will change after the German elections for the young people in Greece, or?
I will have to say that I'm totally covered about of Miguel's saying. I totally agree to all of what he said.
That's good to hear. And can I ask you then, Nadia, where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? What do you think? What are your hopes?
To be honest, I cannot have any hope. I cannot see my future. I don't know. Maybe I hopefully will have a family, but I cannot be sure about that. I just live and work for today, because every day here is changing. Everything is changing. There's no surface to step on. So I cannot see a future. 3 years for me is an eternity. I cannot answer that question. The hopes that I have is that I will be healthy, because I cannot afford not being healthy. I don't have health insurance, okay? I will still have my house to live in, because I owe the house. So hopefully I will have it. And third of all, the more friends and family that I have around me, the better. This is the 3 elements that I really need to have.
Well, we in any case will be keeping our fingers crossed for you, Nadia, and we do hope that you'll stay in touch with us and that you tell us about how you're getting on in your life, that everything will be fine, that you'll stay healthy. I just want to ask the same question. I want to ask Miguel the same question. Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time?
Well, at first, I have to say that I'm a little bit devastated by the lack of hope that we see in Nadia, and it's really makes me very sad, because Europe was created, the European Union was created to give hope to the people that we can have a better future, peaceful, and then I see that we have not reached the objective of the European Union. And then, I mean, it gives me energy to keep working, to improve things, but on the other hand, it's very hard to hear from some young people that he has no hope for the future. I am still in the optimistic side. I think that in 3 years we will be out of this crisis, but we will still to climb again all the things that we have come down. But it will be, of course, any crisis is an opportunity, so I hope now we learn of our mistakes and we can build a more democratic system where the opinion of the people is taken into account over priorities like corporations or this financial system, which is very obscure. Nobody knows exactly where it is, who they are, or how it works, but it's true that they have a super big power that nobody gave them.
Well, one thing's clear, the debate has started, and young people will have to contribute themselves and become active to change the situations. Of course, there are limits, but one thing's also clear, that you do have a vote. We do live in democracies, after all, and you can influence things. Yeah. So I want to thank both of you very, very much for your participation. It's been great to have you here on our Deutsche Welle Web Talk, and it would be a pleasure to stay in touch with you. So we wish you all the best from all the Deutsche Welle team. I would just like to pass the word to my colleagues, Chaponda and Julia, to see what the reaction of our users has been, and to sort of wrap it up. Can you give us the latest tweets?
Yes, I mean, we definitely can. I mean, there is one tweet which definitely sums up what some of the feeling out there is, and the tweet comes from Paula Gill, and she says, "We can't blame one country. The EU dream was a construction of countries based in solidarity. It is now based on profit." And I think that's the feeling for a lot of people who've been tweeting today, and there is a sense that you can't just blame the countries in the south or the countries in the north.
And for those of you who speak German, there's also a debate on a similar topic happening this week in Brussels, and Bernd Riegert, our expert, our Europe expert, will be tweeting live from an event where experts discuss the image that Germany has in the media and how Germany's image, the image of the country, has changed in the course of the crisis because of what we've also established in this web talk, Germany's very, very special role in this crisis. So we're all interested in keeping in touch with you, and thank you very much for joining us on this web talk here today. It's been a pleasure to have you all here in Bonn with us, and I do hope to see you again on one of our Twitter or Facebook accounts. So stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all very much for participating and joining in.